They say the Sierra roads in Mexico whisper to you when you drive them alone at night. That they hold on to voices, screams, regrets. I never believed it. Not until that night. It was mid-October. The air was already turning cold in the mountains. I was hauling a shipment of produce from Guadalajara up toward Chihuahua, driving the old Federal Highway 23, one of those twisting high-altitude roads that feels like it could slip off the edge of the earth. The rain had been chasing me for hours. It wasn't a storm exactly. Just a constant drizzle that soaked the world, turned the trees into silhouettes and the pavement into a mirror. I'd made good time, but I wasn't planning to stop. Not on this stretch. Too many stories about bandits, wild dogs, even weirder things. And besides, I had a deadline. Around 1:30 in the morning, the fog started rolling in. Thick, white, swallowing my high beams like milk. I slowed down, leaning forward over the wheel, eyes straining to catch the next curve before I was on top of it. And that's when I saw her. At first, just a shape in the mist, like the ghost of a tree or a trick of the light. Then the shape moved. A woman, standing on the edge of the road. Long hair, white dress, barefoot. Her head was bowed and her hands hung limp at her sides. She didn't move, didn't wave, didn't look up. But I still stopped. I don't know why. My heart was thudding and every instinct said to keep driving. But something in me, something deeper, made me ease the truck to a halt. I rolled down the passenger window, rain blowing in, and called out, "Señora, ¿está bien?" She didn't answer, didn't flinch, just stood there, soaked, still, set, like the road itself had brought her up from the ground. And though I didn't know it then, she had. I sat there, the engine humming low, wipers squeaking against the glass, rain dripping through the open window. She still hadn't moved. There was no traffic. No sound except the soft whisper of rain and my own breathing, which felt too loud all of a sudden. I should have left. Any sane man would have. But instead, I opened the passenger door. It groaned on its hinges. I leaned over and said again, "Señora, do you need help?" This time she lifted her head. And I swear I've never seen eyes like that. Dark, deep, not empty, but full of something I couldn't name. Pain maybe. Loss. She climbed in without a word. Her bare feet left wet prints on the rubber mat. Her white dress clung to her like fog. She didn't look at me. Just folded her hands in her lap and whispered, "Drive." That was it. So I did. We rode in silence. My hands were locked on the wheel, knuckles white. I couldn't even bring myself to turn on the radio. It felt wrong. Like noise would break whatever fragile thing was happening. After maybe 10 minutes, I finally asked, "Where are you going?" Her answer came soft, almost like wind between trees. "To find them." Find who? My children. I felt my stomach twist. The legend. Every Mexican knows it. La Llorona. The weeping woman. The mother who lost, or drowned, her children and now wanders in eternal grief. But legends don't ride shotgun in your 18-wheeler. I didn't say anything. What could I say? She turned her head just slightly and added, "Not the way they tell it. That's not the truth." Her voice was different now. Stronger. Like it carried a weight too heavy for centuries. They say I killed them. That I was cursed. But I wasn't the only one who lost something. My throat was dry. What happened? She didn't answer. Instead, she stared out the windshield. And began to weep. Soft at first. Then louder. Until the sound filled the cab like rain. Until it wasn't just crying. It was wailing. The sound of her wailing hit something deep in me, something primal. Like it wasn't just coming from her, but from the space between things. The spaces we ignore. I gripped the wheel tighter, my eyes locked on the wet road ahead, though it barely registered. The trees blurred past. The truck's engine hummed steady, but everything else felt unsteady. Then just as suddenly as it started, her crying stopped. She exhaled slow. Like she'd spent centuries holding that breath. And she spoke. My name was Maria. Her voice was calm now, but carried the weight of water. I was a mother. A wife. A woman who loved her family with every thread of her soul. Until the war took my husband, and the hunger took my babies. I swallowed hard. My hands were sweating even in the cold. I didn't drown them, she said flatly. They died in their sleep. Cold and starving. I buried them by the river. Then I walked in hoping to join them. Her eyes met mine. No blame. No anger. Instead, I became something else. We drove in silence for a while. The fog parted slowly, revealing the curve of the road. The mountains watched like silent judges. They made me a warning, she said. A story to scare children. But grief doesn't need stories. It finds everyone. I nodded, unsure what to say. My mouth opened, but no words came. Then she asked, "Do you have children?" Caught me off guard. I hadn't thought about my son in a while. Not since my ex took him and moved north. We hadn't spoken in months. I didn't even know if he still remembered the sound of my voice. "One," I said. "A boy. 10. She looked at me, really looked. "Then hear me," she said. "It's not too late for you." And before I could ask what she meant, the truck's headlights lit up a figure in the road. I hit the brakes, tires shrieking on the wet asphalt. But there was nothing there. Just wind. And her voice, still lingering, softer than before. "Turn around." The tires skidded, but I kept control. When the truck finally stopped, I was breathing hard. My heart pounded against my ribs like it was trying to get out. She wasn't in the seat beside me anymore. Just gone. No sound. No trace. Not even a wet print left behind. I stepped out of the cab into the fog. The air smelled of pine and damp stone. I called out, "Senora?" No answer. Only the whisper of the wind. Then I saw something ahead, just off the shoulder. Dim lights. Lanterns maybe. Flickering through the mist. I grabbed my flashlight and followed them. The path wasn't clear. I had to push through brush, step over twisted roots. But the lights never moved. They waited. Finally, I reached a clearing. There was no town. No house. Just rows of small wooden crosses. Some crooked. Some broken. All nameless. And standing among them, her. She looked younger now. Drat. Her dress no longer clung to her. She stood tall, hands folded, eyes closed like she was praying. I didn't speak. Just watched. She opened her eyes. "These are the ones forgotten." I nodded slowly. "Children?" I asked. She looked down at the graves. Some. Others just lost. Souls without names. Buried by fear, by shame, by silence. She walked between the rows like she knew everyone. Like she had stood vigil for years. "I tried to help them," she said. "But no one listens to a ghost. They listen to fear." I stepped closer, unsure why I wasn't more afraid. Maybe because grief had a scent and I recognized it now. She turned to me. "You can listen. You still breathe. What do you want from me?" I asked. Her eyes softened. "Remember." And then she vanished. No scream. No wail. Just the silence of those little crosses under a sky too wide for comfort. I stood there a long time, flashlight dimming. And when I walked back to my truck, I left something behind. I didn't know what it was. But it stayed there, buried among the lost. I drove for hours after that. Didn't matter where. Just needed the wheels turning. The hum of the engine to drown the echo of her voice. Of her weeping. Of those words, "Remember." But you can't outrun something that's inside you. Her story stuck with me. Not the ghost part. The grief. The shame. The way people twist a mother's pain into myth. I stopped at a roadside diner near Durango, still soaked from the walk through the woods. I must have looked like hell. The waitress didn't ask. Just brought coffee and a towel. I stared at the black liquid for a long time before I touched it. Then I did something I hadn't done in months. I called my son. Didn't think he'd answer. But he did. His voice cracked with surprise when he heard mine. We talked. About nothing and everything. About school. About trucks. About how much I missed him. I promised I'd come visit soon. That I'd call more. That I'd try. He didn't say much in return. But before we hung up, he said, "I miss you too, Dad." And that broke something in me I didn't know was still holding on. Later that night, I opened my notebook and wrote her name. Maria. And beside it, I wrote, "Grief is not a curse. It's proof we loved." I don't know if that's what she wanted me to understand. But it's what I took with me. Sometimes, on the road, I see figures in the fog. Hear voices in the rain. Feel eyes watching from the trees. Maybe she's still out there. Wandering. Watching. Or maybe she's finally at rest now that someone heard the truth. Either way, I carry her story now. Not as a warning, but as a reminder that even ghosts can teach us how to live. They say truckers have two homes, the road and their regrets. After that night, I drove a little slower. Not out of fear, but out of respect. For the road. For its stories. For the ghosts we carry. One evening, months later, I passed through a small town south of Zacatecas. There was a mural on the side of an old building. Faded paint, but powerful. It showed a woman in white by a river, arms open wide, not weeping, not cursing. Just watching the sky. Someone had written below in rough letters, "She waited. She wept. She forgave." I parked the truck, walked closer. Underneath, a list of names. Children. Dozens. I don't know if it was real or just someone's art, but I stood there a long time, and I felt her. Not in the way ghosts linger. In the way memories echo. She wasn't La Llorona anymore. Not to me. She was Maria. A mother who lost everything, and gave her pain to the world so someone else might avoid it. I don't tell this story to scare people. I tell it because sometimes the road gives you more than a destination. Sometimes it gives you a second chance. I call my son every week now, even when it's hard. Even when I don't know what to say. I tell him I love him. I listen when he speaks. I remember. And when it rains, I still check the mirrors. Still slow down near rivers. Still whisper, "Thank you," into the night. Just in case she's listening.